Hi, this is Paul Muscle. In this video I'm going to be addressing a point that was made by Jolene in response to one of my comments on Facebook. First of all, I want to say, Jolene, thank you very much for your honesty and for sharing what you had to say. I appreciate it a whole lot. I would normally have responded by just writing a response, but it occurred to me that I'm busy right now and I don't have time to say what I would like to say in writing, but I could probably convey what I would like to say more effectively just by making a quick video and linking it there. So for Jolene, hopefully this will be helpful for you, and if you're not Jolene, then hopefully this message will be helpful for you too. In your post, you made the case that God was 100% able to heal you, and that for some reason He had chose not to do that. And I wanted to challenge you to reconsider that possibility, or to challenge you to consider the possibility that the only factor in determining whether you are healed or not is whether God wills it or not. I think that the world is more complex than that, and while I do believe that God has the power to do anything that He wants to do, that He is limited in what He can do, both by more than just two things: by what is logically possible, by His own character, and by the prior commitments that He's made, such as giving free will to other agents, and creating the kind of world that He did. That by doing those things, that He has given up unilateral control over what actually comes to pass, that what other people do, even what perhaps animals do, or even bacteria and other even tinier entities that may have autonomy on some tiny level. And certainly there is the whole spiritual realm, of which we know very little about how that actually works. And so I wanted to give a couple examples, cite a couple passages that people frequently look to when they're interpreting whether God is able to do anything, and that He leaves people in their suffering sometimes for a higher purpose. One is the case with Paul and his thorn in the flesh, that he multiple times prayed and asked that God would relieve him of this, and God responded ultimately saying that no, He would not, that His grace is sufficient for Paul. And so this has frequently been appealed to as support for the idea that in every case that this is the kind of explanation for the suffering that we are in, is that God has a higher purpose in mind that He is looking to accomplish by continuing to allow a certain affliction to continue. And this certainly seems irrefutable that this is at least sometimes the case. And with the case of Paul, I think that we are well justified to make that conclusion, but I don't think that it's right to universalize that concept that is relevant in this one passage and say that, okay, because God could have healed Paul of whatever his thorn in the flesh was, and He didn't for a higher purpose, that therefore every time that there's someone that's suffering something and God does not heal them, that they must therefore, it must be for a higher purpose, and because he could do it if he wanted to. That has frequently been the sort of argument that people have made, that because God's all powerful, he could do whatever he wants to do, and if he wanted to heal you, he could do it, and so therefore he must not be healing you because he doesn't want to heal you, and because God's all good, then it must actually be good that he's not healing you. So it's the classic problem of the evil question. And I would like to just offer a couple of quick thoughts. One, I wanted to point out that Jesus came to explain what God is really like. You'll find, I don't have the exact scripture reference, but it's in John chapter 1 that talks about where Jesus came to explain what God is like. Because no one has ever seen God, but Jesus came to explain what he's like. And so when we find things that Jesus says, those ought to be considered higher than anything else, I think. And he says in Luke 13:16, this is in regards to a woman who had been bent over apparently with some kind of scoliosis or some kind of problem in her spine that would not let her straighten up. And he had healed her on the Sabbath day, or he was healing her on the Sabbath day, and said, "Then should not this woman, a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan has kept bound for 18 long years, be set free on the Sabbath day from what bound her?" And so you'll find that in this passage that Jesus is a little more explicit than usual in terms of identifying the source of a particular problem. Jesus identified that in this medical problem that probably had a natural explanation like scoliosis or something like that, that he identified Satan as the core explanation for why this was happening to this lady, why she had been experiencing this for 18 years. And that's this similar kind of identification that you find throughout the Gospels, that Jesus goes around doing good, healing people, delivering them from demons. That's a big percentage of the Gospels is committed to just giving us records of those kinds of things that Jesus did. And in Mark 6, verses 5 and 6, it says that Jesus, or he, could not do any miracles there except lay his hands on a few sick people and heal them. He was amazed at their faith. So Jesus was unable to do miracles, and the explanation that's given is that Jesus was amazed at the lack of faith that the people in this place had. And so apparently their lack of faith was the reason that he was unable to do the miracles there that he would have preferred to have done. My point is that this is not, in this instance, that there's another reason cited as why that God or Jesus was not able to heal people. It was not that God didn't want to heal people, it was that people didn't have the faith. I'm not suggesting that you don't have the faith to be healed at all. I'm just saying that there's more than one explanation for why miracles sometimes do not happen. I'm going to read another example, and this is from Daniel 10, verses 12 and 13. It says, "Then he continued," this is an angel speaking to Daniel, "Do not be afraid, Daniel, since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. But the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me because I was detained there with the king of Persia." So the angel came in response to Daniel's prayer. He was sent right away after Daniel had prayed, 21 days earlier. But this angel was delayed by Prince of Persia. Apparently, some demonic or fallen angelic ruler that was somehow hindering this angel from coming to see Daniel and bring the message that he was wanting to bring. And he couldn't get loose until Michael came and helped him to get free from this Prince of Persia. So another example of demonic activity that can even hinder angels. So my point is that the Bible indicates that there are multiple reasons why that prayers go unanswered. And it's not simply that God can do whatever he wants, and sometimes he doesn't want to heal people. There are other things that are affecting what comes to pass more than just what God wants. So I don't deny that God sometimes does withhold healing that's been requested for a higher purpose, but that does not appear to be the norm. Normally, God healed people. Throughout the Gospels, that's what you find is Jesus goes around and heals people, delivers them from demons. You don't find him, you never hear an example in the Gospels where that there's somebody that comes to Jesus and he refuses to heal them. You know, there was the occasion with the Samaritan woman. Then he talked with her about, is it right for the bread of the children to go to the dogs? And it is true that Jesus he was sent to deal with Israel first. That was the purpose of his coming, was to, or one of the purposes of his coming was to deal with the Jewish people first, and then they were to be the ones to go out and evangelize the rest of the world, at least to start that process. And so that's who Jesus was sent to. He wasn't sent to the Samaritans. He was sent to the Jews. And so, but even then, he healed her daughter, I think it was. And so, but you don't find Jesus going through, and you don't find the writers of the gospel saying Jesus went through the crowd and he picked out the 14 people that he liked and he healed those people, and everybody else he sent away and said, I didn't want to heal you today. That's not the kind of story that you get. The summary statements that you find, Jesus went around doing good and healing people, and that's what he was all about a lot of the time. And so consider the possibility that God wants to heal you, and that there are other things that may be hindering that. Maybe it is your lack of faith. Maybe it is some demonic thing in the way. Maybe it's just the fact that other people haven't been praying. The bottom line is we never really know what worked and why someone was healed. But we do know that miracles are rare, and the reason that they stand out so much in the Gospels and the reason that they were so significant in the life of Jesus is because they were rare. And so the fact that Jesus came and did miracles was the sign of his kingdom coming. And so consider that God is all on your side, and he wants good for you, but be cautious about attributing the things that you're suffering now to God's will, because that it doesn't always, but it can contaminate your perspective of God and cause you to mistrust his character. I know that I've had that problem in my past, and I would like to spare people of that if possible. So thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful, and have a good night. God bless you.